Eye on Horror, the official podcast of iHorror.com. This is episode 99, otherwise known as season 5, episode 21, otherwise known as season 5, season finale. I am your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, is your other host, Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good. Back in LA after visiting folks in Connecticut, and getting ready for the first night of Hanukkah tonight.
Oh, nice. You brought the cold weather with you because it is cold out here. I mean, and I know when it dips into the 40s, us Californians cry, but yeah, whew, burr. Also with us, as always, is your other host, John Correa. How you doing, Correa?
Oh, I'm nice and toasty. I got a new poncho. I
a new one? You have two now?
I now have two. I have an indoor poncho and an outdoor poncho. This is going to be my outdoor poncho. I'm breaking it in. It's a little stiff, but this is what I'm going to be wearing at testing events from here out.
No such thing as too many ponchos.
Listen, it is, to quote the Mighty Boosh, it is impossible to be unhappy in a poncho. So, yeah.
Cool. What have you guys been doing? One thing I want to talk about here, because it's all over the internet. Let's start off with the Adult Swim Yule Log.
Yeah.
Have you guys, you've seen it? You've seen it, Jacob, right?
I've seen it. Oh, I've seen it. All right.
Have you, Korea?
No. How do you watch it? Do you need the Adult Swim app or?
It's on HBO Max.
Yeah, it's on HBO Max, and I've heard it's also on YouTube, but I can't confirm that because I watched it on HBO Max. But
yeah, same here.
I guess they aired it at like 2:30 in the morning on Cartoon Network. And at first, the first like maybe 3 minutes is one of those Yule logs. There's like music and it shows a fire. And I can see you going, okay, this is dumb. I'm turning it off. Don't turn it off. Because it becomes, I mean, I don't want to give too much of it away. Although you can't really give anything away because there's a little of everything in it. I mean, it's a kitchen sink, but there's a horror movie in this Yule log thing.
Yep.
And it's nuts. It is so crazy.
Yeah. And to add some detail, this Yule log special was written and directed by Casper Kelly, the guy that gave us the unforgettable Too Many Cooks.
Yeah. And also what is it? Pictures of a bear. What's the full name of that one?
Like unedited footage of a bear.
Yeah. So you kind of know what you're getting in with that, because that guy is crazy himself.
And he also was the guy who did the Cheddar Goblin commercial, lest we forget.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So he's a hero of yours then, right?
Yes, he is.
Always comes back to Mandy here.
Yep. Mandy is eternal, just like Cheddar Goblin.
Oh, I love Yule logs. One of my favorite. If I stay in LA, I always go to the Drawing Room, which is a bar my buddy works at. That opens at 6 a.m. So I always go there on Christmas morning and we watch the KTV LA Yule log, which is great because it's literally just them filming someone stoking a fire. It's terrible. It's great. I love it.
Have you seen the Yule log that is Darth Vader's head? It's from Return of the Jedi when Luke is burning Vader. Yeah. But it's just however many hours of Vader's head burning.
Just on a loop.
Yeah. The other big thing that came out this week is, and not super horror, but still a spectacle, Avatar, The Way of the Water.
AKA Avatar 2.
Avatar 2, yes, which the long-awaited Avatar 2, 13 years later?
13 years.
Have you guys seen this yet?
I did. I saw it in IMAX 3D just yesterday.
That's the only way to see it. I mean, it's an Avatar movie. It's what you expect. It's James Cameron showing off his, multi-million-dollar budget. And the only way to watch James Cameron
that is an understatement. Multi-million-dollar budget.
100 million, multi-100 million.
Doesn't it have to make over $1 billion just to like break even?
It wouldn't surprise me. It
something like that.
It's a visual feast. And the only way to watch James Cameron show off his budget is on an IMAX screen in 3D with Super Dolby. I mean, I'm as theater phobic as the next person in this pandemic time, but you definitely need to see Avatar. I mean, it should go without saying that an Avatar movie should be seen on the biggest screen possible, but man, it's an impressive feat of filmmaking.
I'm excited about the tech and the push of, technology and where filmmaking can go. I have issues with the white savior storyline and just white creators just making films that are indigenous stories and based on it. It's similar reservations I have to Dune and others, but
right.
I'm sorry, I'm that spoil sport where I think
No, that's a valid criticism.
I mean, it is, and I mean, it's not. I wouldn't really call it white savior because the white guys are the bad guys mostly, especially in this one because spoiler alert for a movie that's 13 years old. The quote white savior last time he assimilated into his avatar, so he is one of the Na'vi now. And they kind of show that he's kind of outcast because him and his kids all have 4 fingers when regular Na'vi have 3. So, they're kind of treated differently. So I don't know if I would consider this one as white savior as the first. Yeah. The first one, you were saying the Northman was Lion King. The first one's Pocahontas.
Oh, it's Pocahontas. It's legitimately Fern
Dances with Wolves.
It's like totally. Dances with Wolves, Last Samurai. Like it's the white savior trope to a T, but it's Fern Gully as fuck. But I mean, or District 9. I mean, like it's such a widespread trope, and but although I will say I did really like the creature effects. Like it's not it's not exactly horror, but there is a scene that kind of skirts horror where like there's a killer whale crab shark thing that tries to eat one of the characters, and it's pretty thrilling, very Jaws like. And also I really want Avatar 2 to succeed, because if Avatar 2 does well, then it looks like there's a pretty good chance that there will be an Alita sequel, and damn it, I want that. Didn't him and Rodriguez take a blood oath?
They took a blood oath.
Nice.
That they will make that sequel over a blood oath, and I'm holding them to it.
That's a bit much, guys.
Tomato. Either way, I want it.
Hey, listen, I'm always down for blood oaths.
Yes,
always, but that's just still seems a bit much. But hey, who am I to judge?
Look, it's James Cameron. He does what he does.
Yeah, if James Cameron wants to make an Alita sequel, it doesn't matter how Avatar 2 does, it'll get made.
True.
What else you guys been seeing?
Well, Cinematic Void with the American Cinematheque's been doing a very fun, untraditional Christmas action movie series recently. So I've seen a couple of them. Like they started off with one of my personal favorite Canadian tax shelter movies, The Silent Partner, with Elliot Gould, Christopher Plummer, and a very young John Candy. Have either of you guys seen it?
No, I have not. No.
Oh man, it's great. Basically, Elliot Gould plays a teller working at a bank on Christmas Eve, and he sees that Christopher Plummer, who's dressed as Santa Claus, is planning on robbing the bank. So when he does rob the bank, he takes the money and shortchanges Christopher Plummer to pin the money on him so he could take the money. And Christopher Plummer is this psycho criminal who starts playing this game of cat and mouse with him and wants the rest of the money. So it is incredible. Kino Lorber did a release of it a little bit ago, and just in terms of especially Canuxploitation movies, it's like way up there.
I've been pretty much buried in awards screeners, but there are a couple things that I saw that we already have talked about, so I don't want to get too deep into them, but I caught up with them. One is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Oh yeah,
which it is a beautiful movie. And I think they made that GDT made the right choice putting it in fascist Italy because it works so well there.
Yeah.
And and Mussolini is even in it. So, and the other thing I saw, which we talked about on the top 10s list, but not really in depth, is The Menu.
Yeah, no, that was one of my favorites this year.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think it would have made my top 10 if I had seen it before, but it's definitely good. It's funny because I was expecting it to be some kind of cannibalism, most dangerous game kind of a thing, and it's neither. It's it's weird because it's like it's not what I expected it to be, but what it is made perfect sense, if that makes any sense. It surprised me, but then I was like, okay, well, how else could you have done this? But yeah, it was terrific. And the other thing I watched, which we haven't talked about yet, for my award screening, is Wendell and Wild. Have either of you guys seen this?
No, but it's on my list.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list.
Netflix animated with Key and Peele. They play these two demons that they basically are. There's this girl who lost her parents, and they want to open up their own demonic amusement park, and to get her help. She's a human. They say they'll bring her parents back. I mean, it's more complicated than that. That's the elevator pitch for it. But It's, I mean, it's funny because it's definitely a horror animated, but it's totally good for kids too. It's like one of those gateway kids horrors. It's spooky, but it's not going to really terrify the pants off anyone. But it's a fun little Netflix cartoon.
Which we need more of. We need more stop motion. We need more kinder trauma. We need more kid-friendly gateway horror films. So yeah, that's on my list to watch this week.
Yeah. Also, I just saw Violent Night.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, the David Harbour badass Santa movie. It was a lot of fun. I really dug it because it's Santa Claus Die Hard, and it's just. No, David Harbour plays a great Santa for one thing, and also it's just very, very interesting to see John Leguizamo play the kind of Hans Gruber bad guy for a change because he nailed it.
He's the bad guy?
Yeah, he plays like the mastermind of the like heist that Santa Claus wanders into, but also he really hates Christmas, so it kind of ties into that. He's having a great time hamming it up, and somebody else pointed out it's funny because he actually played like one of the henchmen in Die Hard 2. So all comes full circle. I'm hoping that we get more Violent Nights and just an excuse to have David Harbour as Santa Claus just kill the shit out of people.
More Violent Nights.
Yeah.
Have either of you guys seen it came out earlier this year, but it's not new at this point at all. That movie Margot? It's the one about the smart house. Have you guys even heard of it? It's the one about the smart house that's named Margot.
No.
Okay. It's pretty bad. It's kind of a cool concept. It's like all these college buddies that are getting ready to graduate. They go off to this. It's not owned by any of them, but they go to this smart house, and this smart house, like they have to download an app on their phone to open it and all this stuff. And this house talks to them kind of like, like a Siri kind of a thing. And of course the house goes crazy and starts, killing them and stuff. But where it lost me was it kept doing this thing where it would use this liquid to like 3D print things. And then it also had these Dr. Octopus arms that would come out of like tables and stuff that would like do things for them. And I'm like, this is like, it's one thing to have like a smart house turn on your TV or, turn on your music for you. But now we're getting into Jetsons territory, and that's just kind of and like at one part they're going to have breakfast and Margot is like, I have over 5,000 Michigan rated recipes. Let me know what you want. And I'm like, oh, come on. I don't know. And then the payoff, when it gets to the payoff, it just gets downright stupid.
It sounds very much so like a horror version of like that Disney Channel movie.
Smart House. Yeah.
That one was like a kid's horror movie because it's like they get a smart house, and then like Katie Sagal, from Married with Children and all that is like the like AI representation of the house, and like she goes bonkers and whatnot. Like
she wants to be the family's mother because the family's mom died, and she kind of goes all Hal 9000 on them.
I just remember that one scene where they like pour a bunch of like food on the ground. She's like, watch, and like the ground shakes and it like absorbs it. And she's like, never have to vacuum. And it's just like, oh, okay.
See, it sounds like that one's a more realistic house than this one.
Yeah.
But it's a great concept, and I wish that they had gone a different direction with it than they did. But they didn't. They went the direction it went. So, yeah.
The real terror about smart houses and smart devices is the mass amount of data collection that happens with.
Oh, yeah.
No one wants to talk about that. I've been extremely busy with work these last few weeks, but I did sneak in another 2022 viewing. Have you guys seen Lucky McKee's Old Man? It's interesting. It's about this guy who's hiking through the woods, and he ends up in this cabin that has an old man in it, played by Stephen Lang. And he's like always walking around in this like red one piece underwear thing, with the butt flap and everything, old timey. And he's very off the grid, just in this cabin. And immediately there's like this back and forth of like, am I dangerous? The old man's like, am I dangerous? Am I a danger to you? While holding a shotgun in his face. But as the movie progresses, they get to know each other a bit more, and things get really weird, especially with that third act. The plot and then the twists are a bit predictable. It's kind of been done before, but Stephen Lang gives a really great performance. I'm very used to Stephen Lang as like the badass Marine in Avatar, or the badass blind guy who's very does fucked up shit and don't breathe and stuff, but he's always like that older muscular dude who's like badass. And this, he's very frail, he's very kind of fragile, and yet is still very powerful and dangerous. And there's a few scenes where he's just like very vulnerable and trembling, and it's a very great performance. It also has Mark Center, who plays the lost man named Joe, and almost the entire movie takes place just in this cabin with just these two. And there's some great back and forths, some great acting, great monologues. Would I highly recommend it? I don't know. If you got some, I didn't absolutely love it, but I didn't hate the movie. It's pretty solid. For a Lucky McKee movie, it was very tame in the blood and gore. But when it did it, but it's interesting. Old man, it's worth checking out. I enjoyed it. I don't think it would have made my top 10 though. I also was up very late last night, and then I bought this video game called Sagebrush. Jacob, you're the video game guy. Have you heard of Sagebrush?
To be honest, no.
I would highly recommend Sagebrush. It's right now on the PlayStation Network for 59 cents. So what do you got to lose? You can play the entire game in like 2 hours. But Sagebrush, it's a first-person narrative-driven like exploration game where you go to this compound that was the site of a very traumatic thing that happened with a cult back in 1993, very Branch Davidian inspired. And you spend the whole game just exploring the compound.
This is like made for you.
It's super made for me, dude. The art style, the like graphics and art style is very like 90s computer, super pixelated, but 3D models. And you're just uncovering clues to what happened there. And you don't encounter anybody. You don't, there's no like monsters or anything to pop out, but like, the sun goes down as the story progresses, and it's just very unsettling. You're picking up and reading a lot of notes. You're finding tape recorders of various cult members talking about it. And it mainly focuses on this one cult member, Lillian, who had her doubts. And there's, it's very classic, like the cult leader, there's a deceiver amongst us, and, their scripture is radically changing to more and more fucked up shit. And I was up late editing the latest episode of Talking Titans, and I ended up staying up a little bit long because I was super caffeinated. So I was playing this at 2:00 in the morning last night, and I got freaked the fuck out. Like there's one part where you open a door, and there's just like a room with a bed, and there's like a VHS camcorder, and you turn on the light and the whole room glows red. And it's just like, oh, this is not good stuff happening here. And that's not even the most disturbing room in the game. And then later on, when it's like pitch blackout, you have to go back to that house. And the only way you can really see it is because if you left the red light on, you can see the windows off in the distance glowing red. And it's just Sagebrush. Again, 59 cents. Even when it's not on sale, it's like $5 or $6. Like it's 2 hours. It's like a whole movie that you play.
What I was going to say, somebody who knows the story should do a recording of it. And, because I don't really have any interest in playing this game, but I would like to see somebody else play it.
Oh, yeah, no, there's I'm sure there's lots of Let's Plays of it on YouTube. There's a market for it.
Come over. I'll play it for you.
What platform is it for?
So it's on PlayStation. That's where I played it. It's also on Steam, and it's on all the others. It's an indie game. It was made by it was just one guy. Pretty much that made it, and he voiced like the cult leader. I think his sister or someone. I saw in the credits a lot of the same last names. But yeah, I did a little reading. He spent like 1.5 years on it, and it's very effective. It goes to show like you don't need the flashiest graphics. You don't need the like most insane like boss battles or anything. Sometimes like just having a very strong narrative and a very strong like idea works very effectively. And yeah, it creeped the shit out of me. So
it definitely sounds like one of those games that gets in your head.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, I actually got another horror game recently. Have either of you heard of the Callisto Protocol?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a new survival sci-fi horror game. It was made by the guys who made Dead Space. Did either of you play those?
Oh, I was all about Dead Space and Dead Space 2 when those games came out. I'm so mad the remaster is not coming to PS4.
Yeah, no, me too. Because I don't even know how to get a PlayStation 5, even if I wanted to get one. Callisto Protocol came out for PlayStation 4, so I was able to get that. And yeah, no, it's very much in line with that kind of sci-fi horror. And it's a really fun concept because it's basically you fly cargo for this prison on Callisto, on the moon. I think it's like one of the moons of Jupiter, and your starship is attacked and you crash back onto the prison, and then you're arrested and imprisoned, and when you wake up, like, all hell's broken loose. Like, there's a riot and explosions, and like all the prisoners are free, but there's also this like viral infection going around that's mutating the prisoners and people into these horrible mutants with lots of goo and tentacles and all that stuff, and you have to fight your way through the bowels of the prison to try and get out. And yeah, no, it's very much a spiritual sequel to Dead Space. It's got similar mechanics and some pretty decent creature design. And, this is one of those things where, like, I had to put it down after a while because it was just getting me too tense. But I mean, I'm going to get back into it. But yeah, no, it's pretty effective. And yeah, I've also been a fan of Dead Space games. And yeah, it's too bad about the remake only being PlayStation 5 exclusive. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to kind of get back into that with Callisto Protocol. Been pretty good so far.
And now we have a couple of very special guests. We have the producer and one of the stars of the movie 1BR. That's Alok Mishra and Naomi Grossman. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Very good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for being here. The question that I always like to start with, and let's start with you, Naomi. How did you get started in the industry? How did you get started acting?
What's before conception? No, I mean, listen, I'm not like Drew Barrymore or anything, but I definitely, from a very young age, I knew exactly what I, wanted to be when I grew up. Unfortunately, this was in Denver, Colorado, where there was really very little to do other than, Father Dowling Mysteries and, Perry Mason and regional commercials and, regional theater. So that's what I did for a really long time until I could go actually took a brief respite to Argentina. Vamos Argentina. We're celebrating World Cup today. But and then from there I went to, drama school in Chicago. And after 4 years of winter, I was done with that and moved out to LA to, be a movie star. But and actually I met Alok soon after. One of my best friends in in college was one of his best friends in high school. So, I got to meet him early on. I didn't realize that I was, networking from the very start. But anyway, that doesn't really answer your question. But yeah, I mean, I would say I got my SAG card on my 15th birthday. Again, that was sort of kiss of death in Denver because there was really like no union. There was nothing to do there other than, get old enough to leave home and, come to Hollywood. But I did that as soon as I could.
I was going to say, she's also being very humble. She's like, I went to drama school. Well, she went to drama school at Northwestern with people like Zach Braff and Seth Meyers and, those people. So she's being very humble when she says drama school. Anyway, so I actually, I was, I'm Indian. My father was a doctor. Indian people want you to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer kind of thing. And I told my dad, I'll be a doctor because I was, interested in it intellectually, but I didn't love it. And literally when I got to the point where I took the MCAT and scored well enough to get in on it, I was like, I'm not doing it, Dad. I want to do entertainment instead. So broke his heart, poor man. But he was, very supportive. And so what I fell into was something that was sort of similar to what I had been doing with medicine in terms of like research and also whatever. I fell into movie market research. I tested movies for a living. So I did that for like 18 years until the point where I had kind of a what is it all about sort of moment. And I was like, look, I test all these shitty movies. I know I can make a shitty good movie or whatever it is, So I decided I was going to do it. And, one of the things of this movie is I allegedly, mortgaged and already paid off house to make this like one BR movie that we're talking about today. So that's my origin story, and I'm sticking by it.
Wow. Mortgage the house against it, huh?
Sometimes you got to believe in yourself. You bet on yourself. It's what it is. Well, the script is a really good script, and so like the reason we got that script is that Allard Cantor and Jared Murray, who are also producers in the film, they're also David Marmer, who's our writer director, a fantastic writer director. They're his managers, and it just so turns out that Allard went to high school with my ex-wife, and before we were an ex-wife, whatever. And we went to one of those douchebag lunches that you have. You talk about yourself and what you're working on, and he's like, I got 2 scripts. I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you the script, Tragedy Girls, and I'm going to send you a 1BR. And like 6 months later, I haven't read the script, but 6 months later, and to my own defense, I was working on something. We were almost ready to go on it, and it fell apart. And I was like, what the fuck? I got to find something else. I'm sorry. Can I curse on this thing? Or is that okay?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So fuck. Sorry. Anyway, so long short. So I found that I went back and I started reading all the scripts I was supposed to catch up on. And Tragedy Girls was like a horror comedy. And I told them, like, look, it's a great script, but I will never do a horror comedy. It's too hard to make both the audiences happy, because I've learned that from testing things, And they're like, well, we already finished filming that last week. And I was like, well, what the fuck do I know? So, but I loved 1BR. I met with David Marmer, him and myself and my producing partner, Shane Worcester. We're kindred spirits. He's a super intelligent, just a super bright guy, and is a very affable person. Like, he is a good person. And we were really in this because he was a first-time writer director. We were first-time producers, and we were literally in it for the long haul, because we got the script in 2017 in like the spring. I actually gave it to Naomi right away, in fact, because I was like, what do you think? Like, is this good? I think there's a part for you. It's not like the main, but it's something. But she was like, yeah, this is a good script. Like, she always says that her dad's an architect, and she was like, well, man, the script has to have good bones, like a piece of property, whatever. So it did. And like, come December 2017, we were shooting it. So that's how we got involved with it.
Wow. And then it came out on Netflix very early in the pandemic. I remember it was one of those ones that, like, early pandemic, it was 1BR and Host a lot were getting talked about a lot. What was that kind of whirlwind experience of?
What specifically happened was that, Netflix rejected us twice. I'm just going to say that. Okay. And we were just, begging them. And when we came out in April of 2020, we came out on TVOD, like on all the different platforms and stuff. And it did incredibly well. Like, it was like number 2 or 3, I think 3 on iTunes, like horror. And everyone was like, what is this movie about? Like, there's like, Naomi Grossman's a recognizable person. So is Taylor Nichols to some extent. But like, by and large, no one recognized the person on the poster, for example, because it's her first movie, right? First narrative feature. And so it did really well. And crazily so, to the point that we went back to Netflix. We're like, look at what it did, the numbers. And they're like, all right, we'll take you. We'll give you no money, but we'll take you. Like, thank you. So we were, over the moon, and we knew basically in May that they were going to take us in August of 2020. And so we literally, like, Naomi and I and some other of our castmates, like, we had nothing to do, right? Like, all summer long. And we knew we were coming out in England and different places like that. So we just, like, every day I got up, I was like, I'm going to sell 100 copies of this movie by my force of will. I'm going to do it. So I just started approaching different reviewers who hadn't seen the movie, for example. Like, I'd look on Rotten Tomatoes and I'd look for like a piece of shit movie. I'm like, who gave that a good review? All right. If they like that, they're certainly going to like all this. So I would approach people and be like, hey, I'm just doing a post-mortem about our movie and seeing how our publicist did. And did she send you the movie? And they're like, no, they didn't send me the movie. Let me right that wrong. Let me send you the movie right now. Watch the movie. And so we would keep on pumping out reviews even after we came out. And also because, we're coming out in England, different places. It's always to have awareness. Like, we talk about a lifespan of a movie, right? And what people don't realize specifically is that it's about 40% that is actually the pre-production, the actual production, and then the post-production, right? But the other 60% is marketing the film, right? And people don't realize that. And people don't keep on putting new things up on social media or whatever it is, and this and that. So we consistently did that. And by the time we came out on, Netflix. The very first day we were on Netflix, we were in their top 5. And I was like, I don't know, like 73 million households. I mean, that's essentially, there's 2.11 people in each household, right? There's 192 million people that Netflix knows it has. They're not stealing it from them, right? Like that's what they know. So it's like crazy, like, right? Like you would never think that that you could get to that many people, but you can. 192 million people have access to Netflix. And so we figured out that hitting in the top 5 is like rarefied air. You just don't do it like for a small film like ours. And not only do we do it, but we were in the top 5 and got to number 1. For 8 days, we were basically in the top 5 and got to number 1 eventually. And it was like the craziest thing. Like, I mean, I literally felt like we had we'd gotten to the top of Mount Rushmore or whatever it is, Kilimanjaro. And I was just like, I cried because I was like, we fucking all our plan, if we did, like fucking it worked. Like we went on a huge festival run in addition to that to build awareness of the film. But these are things that people don't really realize. If you do have a film that tests very well, let's say I'm doing quotation marks right now. When you test a movie, it scores this way: excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. Well, we did 20 test screenings of it that were just 20 people, and we do a focus group for them, and we culled our data. We learned a lot of stuff from it, and we learned that we had very little rejection of the film, and people would rate it very good, not excellent, because we couldn't afford to be excellent, frankly, but it was very good. So we knew we didn't have a lot of rejection, so that was fantastic. And so we knew when it came onto Netflix, it could do well if we had enough awareness. And that's the tough part of it. It's rising above sort of that noise, because there's so many horror movies that come out. I mean, how many killer shark, killer clown shark movies are there, right? There's so many.
What do you mean you couldn't afford to be higher on Rotten Tomatoes? You don't have to buy it.
No, but I'm saying this, we couldn't afford to be better. We had more money, maybe we could have more time to make a better film, for example. So that's what I mean. We shot for 15 days. We went back and did 4 days of reshoots, actually. We shot in 2017, December, and then we couldn't get the band back together, so to speak. Naomi Grossman is especially busy. She had been nominated for an Emmy when we had to actually get her. The only week we could do it was the week of the Emmys. We're like, no. Naomi Grossman, you should get to go to a gifting suite and get, lots of trips to Barbados.
This is what he does, by the way. This is what he does. He picks the most important day, the day my team is going to win the World Cup, and then he ropes me into a podcast. He picks the day that I'm going to be gifted, trips to Barbados, and he makes me come, shoot his
shitty little film. Yeah.
That's the other thing he does. He has a quota, literally a number of curse words that he has to meet by the end of any podcast in order to adequately upset my mom, who listens religiously. Yeah. So
she thinks I can be better. She thinks I can be better, and the sad truth is, I can't. I'm just what I am.
She's an English teacher. She believes in you, Alok.
She's put her belief in somebody that's never going to fulfill that belief.
In your defense, I'm usually the one that's swearing the most on the podcast. So
he's the reason we click that explicit when we publish. It's always Korea.
There was 1 or 2 times where we almost got to the end of the episode and there was just something that set me off. And I just went fuckers or something. And then Jay was like, shit, we got to click that box again.
Oh, I always do it anyway. I don't even count anymore.
Actually got flagged just yesterday. I posted a little, Argentina, of course, thing on YouTube, and it was really just a quick TikTok of me kind of looking lecherous with Messi, of course, the star of the Argentine team, and there were people literally commenting there are children on this app. It's over a woman kind of salivating over a soccer player. It's not porn. Calm down.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there are worse things out there.
There's way worse things on YouTube, especially. Come on.
Do you think it was the 1BR was put on our radar by Devin Burrows, who was the composer for The Wretched, and he had, because when we had asked him what excites him about what's coming out now, and he had mentioned the film and in particular the score, and that's what put it on our radar. And this was when IFC, which who did The Wretched, was putting everything out to drive-ins and on pay-per-view because of the pandemic. Do you think that the pandemic and people, basically being locked up and quarantined had anything to do with how popular not just your guys' movie, but Netflix in general? I mean, since they were locked up, there's nothing to do but watch I know streaming services went through the roof. How much do you think that actually helped your guys' movie get to number one?
I think a lot. I mean, I don't know. Alok has probably done this research. That's the other thing he does, a ton of research. He's amazing at it. He really, now I'll sing his praises. There, at one point, I remember him calling and saying, hey, will you buy it was like 11 o'clock at night. He's like, hey, can you quick buy the movie on iTunes? And I'm like, okay. Like, he's like, I'll pay you back. I'm Venmoing you $5 now. I'm like, okay. And literally his thing was, he knew that like at midnight on that night is the night that it like rolls over and they, the horror charts on iTunes, repopulate or whatever it is. And if he could just get enough people to like buy the movie all at once, like within the hour, like maybe he could, play the system somehow. And he did. Like, I don't know if that was the day we made number one, but
we went to number two. But like the thing was, I wanted to try and experiment. I was like, look, for $5, we were down to $5 to like do whatever. And I was like, for $5, I'm willing to spend like $200 to see if it actually bumps us. Like, because since we went down in price, we were like at number like 5 or something like that. But we were able to get like number 2 or 3 or something because like, I don't know, 40 people like bought it all at once, just like right before midnight. And like the East Coast has already gone to bed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I just wanted to try experiment. And so, so we did it and like paid everyone back and they got that on the movie and why not, But anyway, I do stupid shit like that all the time just to kind of like see what's what. It was an interesting thing. What was the initial question? Sorry, you were saying, I was going to answer, but I forget what it was.
No, did the pandemic probably help? I think it did. I mean, let's face it, it's so meta. Like, we're all home, we're all streaming. Why not stream a movie about a woman trapped at home? Like, and you know what I mean?
Also, you can't trust your neighbors. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, there's a responsibility to mask up and do different things. And so this was very meta. We couldn't have planned that the pandemic was going on and this would be like what it was, but it actually did become something more than it was for just that reason, So that's actually, I think, to your point, it is the not only were the streaming services like doing boffo business as they call it here in the town or whatever, but they were they were lacking content too. Yeah. Which may have been one of the reasons they said, "All right, we'll take a chance on you, kids," and pay you no money. Yeah. So that's that. It was very. I think it was very. That was very much the case. Also, to say about The Wretched, the Pierce brothers, who are our buddies, we actually came out. We premiered at Fantasia Fest in Montreal, and we took our whole cast up there, and they brought their people, and so we were like, mano a mano the entire time, and we were just like, first we were just like, are they a competition or are they our friends? We're like, they're our friends. And so we became friends. And I literally just saw another movie by their producer here at Beyond Fest here in LA, which was Feed Me, which is a fantastic film. It's about cannibalism, but it's like fucked up movie. It's great. You got to watch it if you like, if you want to see something really cool. Watch that movie. That producer also did Wretched, and the Pierce brothers have moved on to amazingly greener pastures, and that they're doing a film for Screen Gems, and who are the guys that wrote Black Telephone and Sinister, and directed Scott Derrickson
and Robert
Cargill. And Robert Cargill loves our movie too, by the way, which I was like, I'm fanboy. He wrote a really nice Twitter thing about that. But they're producing their new movie that Screen Gems is putting out, and it's a much bigger budget than The Wretched was. So kudos for them. So anyway, that's the reason we all became friends, and then that's maybe the reason that the composer mentioned us in some way, bringing it full circle.
Yeah, it probably would. I don't think any filmmaker should ever be considered competition. I think everybody should be partners. It's a community, not a competition.
No, and that's what we've learned. I mean, I have a 4.5-year-old, right? I was gonna say I have a 4.5-year-old, and I was trying to explain to her because we had gone to Universal Studios on Thursday night, and she saw the Jaws thing, and we've been there like 8 times this year. So we have a pass for her, and I was trying to explain to her we watched Goonies, and then we watched Gremlins. And I was trying to explain to her, well, there's this guy, Steven Spielberg, who helped these people along. And all these people, the guy that made Star Wars, they're best friends. And then he made a movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark. I tell him, like, the 70s, they had this whole motto or whatever, where these, like John Milius, Spielberg, and Lucas literally exchanged points on 3 of their movies. Just like sight unseen, like, hey, look, you have Jaws coming out, I'm going to give you a point. You have Star Wars coming out, I'm going to give you a point. You have some shitty surfing movie coming out. Like John Milius like ran away like a bandit with like fucking like money. And like Spielberg and Lucas were like, I think it was Lucas in particular because they did a round robin thing. Lucas was left holding the bag, really. So, but yes, you're right. You're right. We should all help each other. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Well, it's such a small community too. I mean, we're talking about all these different connections, and then after we interviewed Devin, he ended up his score was put out by Ship to Shore Phonoco, which is my buddy Justin. So I mean, it's small worlds all over, which is awesome. And then I'm loving hearing because this is a grassroots campaign of you guys getting this movie out. I mean, even you guys coming out on the podcast today, you reached out to us because you guys are doing another big push to even more AOVD and streaming services soon too, right?
Yeah, we're going to be on. So as of January 1, we are leaving Netflix for now. But I have a suspicion we'll be back. They took us off for 6 months before and then brought us back on, and then the numbers were higher and whatever. I get the method to their madness, but that's okay. The main thing is that we're on Shudder at present. We're going to be on January 1. We are launching on Peacock, Tubi, Freevee, Plex, Roku TV, Pluto TV, and then Zumo. I want to say that. I think that's all of them. I could have missed one, but it's going to be on a bunch of different ones. And I'll say this, for independent filmmakers, these platforms are the way we make our money. Like we didn't make shit from Netflix. I'm just going to tell the truth. But for these like platforms, if you watch the whole movie, you get paid off of basically how many commercials there are. And I'll say this too, the commercials are very short to the point that you can't even go pee and then come back. And you'll have missed the movie. Like you'll have to like rewind the movie because they're that short. They come in, fairly frequently depending on the platform. But the most that we get paid on, if you can like really watch these 2 platforms in particular, Tubi and Freevee, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're big fans of Tubi.
Yeah, we love Tubi.
Tubi has so many movies on it. So many horror movies on it. So here's the thing. So I was having a meeting with the Tubi originals, like, a year ago, something like this during the pandemic. And I tried to scroll. I had Apple TV. I was scrolling through Tubi. An hour and 25 minutes later, I got to the end of the horror movie section. And I can't tell you how many like shark movies, clown shark movies. Like I said before, there's literally clown shark movies. Like there's so many movies on there. And the woman who I was meeting with was just so impressed that I'd gone through the whole thing. She's like, I've never met somebody who actually scrolled through the whole thing.
Well, you do your research.
At a certain point, it became a mission because I was like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, when is this? I've been doing this an hour. When can this end? I got to get to the end. This is my quest. Like the whole thing. Anyway, sorry. That was.
And they do deep cuts too. Our buddy Justin LaLiberty with Vinegar Syndrome posted about how he found a movie on there and it opened up with, this is a VHS promo for a movie, not for a screener, like a VHS screener. They just straight ripped a VHS, which is fun. Oh, I respect the shit out of it.
It's ballsy. Yeah. So we kind of have this, we love movies that do what we say becomes a different movie. And that's kind of what 1BR does. For me, not knowing much going into it, it is not the movie I expected it to be. I expected it to be kind of like a singular stalking, kind of almost like a guy living in the walls kind of thing. And it is not that movie. It's more visceral, it's more brutal, and it's more cerebral. And also it leaves itself open very much to a sequel, or not just a sequel, but to a bigger universe at the end. And you guys have a sequel in the works, correct?
We do. Naomi, do you want to say something about it, or like I can?
I mean, it's so under wraps. You know, Alok likes to. Well, I don't want to steal one of his curse words from him, but he likes to. Again, Mom, I'm using quotes, so don't think that I'm saying these are not my words. But he likes to J.J. Abrams the shit out of everything. So he won't even tell me. I haven't even read it. All I know is Janice is back.
Yes.
Janice is back, and she's looking for love. No, I don't know. I know that, let's face it, she's a widow. So,
well, I don't know how much we want to give away. I mean, do we want to give away? I mean, we can give away.
But
whatever,
we know that, right? We've seen the movie, so we know that. Although you're right, just because you die in a horror movie, you can't kill a good horror movie. Like,
no,
you're right. We could see him in a prequel. We could see him in as a ghost, as a drunken apparition. There's a million ways this could go. We could see, but also Janice could also. I mean, there's a lot of. I know nothing. That's the answer.
I'll say this. So the first one was Alien. The second one's Aliens. Like it's definitely like a bigger sort of look into that universe, and things you thought were one way could be turned around in certain regards. It's a fantastic script. Like I read it 3 times, and then we just had a couple notes, and we gave it back to Marmer, our brilliant writer director, and he just we're getting something on the 23rd, which is this week. So December 23rd. So, hopefully after this is airing, it'll be past that. We'll already have the script in our hand. We're already budgeting. We're already like figuring stuff out. But it's gonna be super cool. It's gonna be like I said, bigger universe, much bigger budget in comparison to the first one, which was like SAG ultra low budget film. This is gonna put us into a couple categories above that. Yeah, like, look, I mean, the other thing we're actually thinking about too, and this is a kind of a first, I haven't really mentioned this any other place, is definitely a theatrical run for it.
Awesome.
We think that it everyone is like, Terrifier 2 did so well. Can't you do this well? Like, Terrifier 2 had an amazing following. They didn't do any fucking basically marketing for that movie, but just on the strength of how well it had done, like in the streaming platforms and stuff, it was able to have this amazing. I mean, I think it's almost $13 million now, something like that. And frankly, there's not enough studio content for the theaters right now. Like they don't have 52 weeks of content. And so we really feel like, a 1BR or something that's had a lot of exposure and a lot of sort of notoriety in a nice, respectful way can actually do fairly well, hopefully, in that context, and, pay off the bigger budget for, the money grubbing producers and stuff. Well, we shall see.
Hopefully you don't have to mortgage the house again for it, right?
No, that's never happening again. That may or may not got me divorced.
Ooh, I'm sorry,
but I mean, whatever. It's all good. I have a lovely 4-year-old daughter. She's amazing. So anyway, no, it's amicable. That's the good news. It's amicable. She's not taking me for like dental cleaners. But look,
that's good.
Look. Would I have done it any differently? Fuck no, I wouldn't have done it any differently. Fucking producers and directors in the indie space, it's like the wild, wild west. Sometimes you just got to put your balls on the table and say, I'm going to do this. And you do it. And then it turns out okay sometimes. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah. And did you drop hints on the title? Because we were talking earlier about what the title could be, cracking is it going to be 2BR?
It's not 2BR.
It's not 2BR? it's not 1BR, the second story?
Everyone thinks it could be. But I will tell you a little something. I will say this. The title 1BR was very purposeful in so much is that on certain platforms, you will be numbers first and then alphabet after that. And so 1BR is typically, like, for example, Peacock does it this way. And Peacock also puts your Rotten Tomatoes score up there too, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a 1BR and it's 88% certified fresh, we had a publicist at one point and told us like, horror movies, it doesn't really matter what the fucking score is, and we were like, are you out of your mind? Like,
of course it does.
Have to no, it matters because not only because these new platforms have that up there, But like for Netflix, for example, they have different categories, right? They have like 40 different categories. I look at this every morning, right, to see how many categories we are propagating, let's say, right? And one of them is critically acclaimed movies, critically acclaimed thrillers, critically acclaimed independent films, whatever. So you have another category that you will be in because you've done well on Rotten Tomatoes. So if anybody ever tells anybody that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter, they're a moron.
I mean, there are people I know who actually seek out the poorly rated movies just because, I mean, I'm one of those. I love bad movies, but I also love good movies. So it's, yeah, I having a high Rotten Tomato score is never going to hurt you. You know?
Yeah. I mean, well, but here's the thing. It doesn't hurt you if your movie is skirting the line between two genres, right? So they may be right with horror movies, like you say, people like the shitty movies, or they seek these things out, right? But if you have a psychological thriller with elements of horror, right, and it skirts two lines, then you have a different audience who's going to look at it and be like, well, what's this about? It doesn't really star anybody I know, like I may know their face, but I don't know them by their name. So what? Oh, 88%. Oh, okay. I'll take a chance. I'll spend $4 or, whatever it is. So that's the mentality that needs to be there. And I don't think, sadly, a lot of filmmakers try to listen to their distributors who may not be leading them down the right path per se. And you have to like stand your ground, like as filmmakers, as creatives, like you have to be like, no. Look, I used to fucking test movies for 18 years. I fucking know what this means. So fuck you with this, Anyway, sorry. I'm saying fuck you. I'm saying fuck you too much. I'm sorry, Naomi's mom.
Hitting that counter.
Some of these will go on. These count towards the next one, Alok. So
now, Naomi, I would be I would regret if I didn't bring up your iconic role as Pepper on American Horror Story, because first of all, I mean, Freaks was my gateway horror as a kid. So when you showed up in season 2 as Pepper the Pinhead, was immediately in love. And you were one of the first characters to actually come back in the show. And so now you've been in Asylum, Freak Show, and now you even had your own story for Stories, right?
Yeah, you may have missed me in Apocalypse. I was people actually were like, "Oh, it was so nice to see you playing yourself." I was like, "I stabbed a virgin." Like that's. I was still a character. I was like, but
a Satanist. A Satanist.
I was a Satanist. Yes. Actually, I remember preparing for that role. On a floaty toy, reading the Satanic Bible in my pool. Neighbors walking by, like, oh, what's happening? Like, what's she doing now? Not to be confused when they recognized me in 1BR during the pandemic, and they were like, "Oh my God, she lives next door." We were already afraid enough of our neighbors. But yeah, no. So indeed, I was indeed the first crossover character from Freak Show, from Asylum to Freak Show. But then, yes, came back in Apocalypse, and then yes, in Stories as well.
That's awesome, and it's such a great legacy character. How willing are you to come back as Pepper again? I mean, you've already done it a few times. Like,
I mean, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying having hair. I'm actually very thankful that this is not a video today, because I'm sporting some really dumb looking Princess Leia little hairdo now, but
no, it's cute. Don't worry about it.
I mean, it was an early morning. Like I said, the game was at like 7 a.m. here in LA, but yeah, we listen, if there's anything I've learned, it's just hair. Like, on any moment, all you got to do is say, shave your head, and I'll say, how short? Like, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, of course. But people always say that, would you be willing to come back? It's like, I want to pay my mortgage as much as anyone. So yeah.
Of course. And I relate to the Satanic book. I brought a copy of Satanic Feminism in the 1800s with me on the road. So I was like in the hotel in Texas reading that, and I definitely got
awesome
a lot of looks.
Choice. Yeah. Oh yeah. In Texas, no less. That's a great, yeah.
Well, I'll say something about that actually in a weird way. So I'm working on a project with So Peter Polk, who was our executive producer for 1BR, is also Ty West's producer, and he did like X, for example, and Pearl this year, and like all of Ty West stuff. And we're working on like a TV show together with Eduardo Sanchez, who did like Blair Witch, for example. So Eduardo tells us like, and we're working with another person we can't mention, but the point though, Eduardo tells us, "Hey, I'm coming into town. I'm doing an episode of this American Horror Stories, and I'm coming in town this week. Let's meet up. Let's get some drinks and tacos or whatever the fuck we're gonna do, LA style." And then Naomi comes to me and she's like, just between you and me, I booked this thing. I can't talk about it, and it's this American Horror Story. And I'm like, when are you shooting this? Because Eduardo's coming in. And it turned out he was directing her episode where she plays Rude Ruth or whatever. That's a character that she plays in the episode. And so we all went out to tacos together. And then we went back to Naomi's house and in a pool where she reads the Satanic verses or whatever. We went swimming and we had some, whatever fun. Edibles are legal here.
What does that mean? Whatever fun.
I mean, I'm saying we drank some stuff and we drank some beer and we had.
Naomi's mom is listening.
I know.
Careful.
Someone took an edible and it wasn't Naomi. Okay. But anyway, long story short, they got to talk to each other because no one ever knows when they're shooting something. Like,
right.
We never get to talk to the director ahead of time or whatever. And he was like, "Look, you just got to watch the Cannibal Holocaust. Get ready for this role. Watch this movie." That's what he told her. So,
Alok is referring to the fact that the show is so secretive and, and it's true. But it's also true that that actors rarely, we usually get to meet the director like on the day, like 5 minutes before he's calling action, he's introducing himself. So it's very rare to have that kind of special one-on-one time to, sit and allegedly have some whatever fun together or whatever.
Well, I mean, that was the craziest thing is that like I literally just pieced it together. It's like, you're coming out here. Naomi's actually shooting this show. I think that they're doing the same show. That's what it was. So.
Put it together Columbo style.
That's what I did. I was like,
All right, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today, especially after your big win in the World Cup.
Yeah, congrats, Argentina.
Thank you.
Vamos, Argentina.
Sequel to 1BR. You say you're shooting this coming summer. So when do you expect a street? Like early next year?
Well, it's spring or late spring. We're thinking at this point. Let's see. I would love to bring it out in October if we can get finished in time, which I think is a pretty aggressive schedule. But we have more money this time, so we have more people working on it more full time, and so it's not like what it was before, where we you don't have money, it takes a lot of time. If you have money, it's quicker. But I'd like to either bring it out then or in January of 2024. We'll see what makes sense. We don't want to undercook this thing. We want to make it so it's like everything it should be, and there could be other ones coming in addition. So of that particular franchise.
Again, it leaves itself open to a whole universe. So I mean, I can see, like you said, J.J. Abrams the shit out of it. I can see a Cloverfield thing happening where you go to different parts in the universe. So
I mean, look, you could go to different countries if you wanted to.
With how it ends, that's not just a very LA. It was a very LA thing. The how with the ending in the building owners and stuff, you see that a lot. It renting in the valley. That definitely brought back a lot of I've been to that showing. I've been to that open house. I know that building.
Everyone who's lived in LA has lived in that apartment complex because it's like this plain stucco, shitty, whatever.
But no one was that friendly.
No one is that friendly. No one is that friendly.
That was a huge red flag for me in the beginning. I was like, none of us are that friendly in LA.
I mean, the funny thing is when you look at if you really look at how unfriendly people are in LA, it does set off all kinds of alarm bells if you really
Thanks for joining us, and we will keep an eye out for that. Where can people find you on the socials if they want to keep up, for the latest one BR news or the latest in what you guys are doing?
I'm at Naomi W. Grossman across all platforms. I think I still have my blue check mark. I don't know. I haven't checked. Maybe
you haven't paid
Elon's
for it?
taken it away by now. I didn't pay the $8, so I just have to hope.
I think they have legacied people who had it before, but there's like a disclaimer now saying it says exactly the opposite of what it means. It says this has not been vetted, which it has been vetted if you're legacy, but
of course,
I don't know. He's trying to get the $8 from you.
Okay. It hasn't been vetted by the puppeteer,
by Elon. Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Alok?
We're 1BR_film. We're mostly on Twitter, sadly. I don't know if that's the best idea for us, but sadly, we were so close to getting to 5,000 and get that fucking blue check mark, and now I don't know if I can just pay for it now, and there's no challenge to it. But we're there. We're we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Facebook and Twitter are kind of what we're mostly on. Let's say, if you watch a movie and you like the movie, please tell your friends. I will say this: the other score when you're testing movies, for example, that matters. Would you definitely recommend it for a friend? And generally, we find with this movie, it's sort of a discovery movie. People they think it's going to be like, I don't know, something that's supernatural or something like that, and turns out to be something completely different. And each act, it kind of almost turns to some extent, without hopefully giving too much away. And because of that, people they like it, they love it in a weird way, and then they tell their friends, hopefully. And that's what we would ask: if you do like it, please tell your friends. Please tweet about it. Please mention on Facebook. Please mention on social media. It helps a little film like this kind of like go to another level. And like I said, if the sequel is going to come out hopefully this year or very beginning of next year, enough people will have watched it that will really enjoy the sequel. Hopefully, that's our idea and that's our hope.
And really watch it on Tubi, right?
Tubi and Freevee.
Tubi and
Freevee, but Tubi more than anything else because they pay.
And watch the whole thing because here's the thing. Here's what we know clandestinely, but we have like kind of a 75% retention rate. 75% of people actually watch the whole thing allegedly, but we think because they like it so much and they tell their friends that hopefully the second one will be even more popular. Hopefully, let's see. Fingers crossed. Word is, if they don't finish a movie, it's because it's too scary. Have you guys seen that? That's ridiculous. They say, this is the scariest movie on Netflix. No one can finish it. It's like, oh, no, people turn it off because it sucks.
Well, there's a lot of things on Netflix that suck, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It's like they're trying to spin it.
I mean, it's what it is. It's so funny. Like for this movie that like was a no budget film that had like I don't think we even talked about the horrible challenges that we had making the film and stuff. We lost our entire cast 3 days before we were shooting. I don't know if you guys saw that. Did I show you that article? I forget if I sent it to you or not. No. They let me write an article on a Movie Maker magazine about all the horrible shit that went wrong with this film. And one of them was we had a fire. We had a Mulholland fire that happened right during a pre-production. And we didn't know if our production office had burned down or not. And we were like looking on Google Earth to see if it had burned down. But we knew we were like right next door to the veterans graveyard. So they would never let that burn twice. Like dishonor those people twice, something like that. They were like dumping lots of water on it, blah, blah, blah. And then that was one thing. And then like literally it's a Monday. We're shooting on Thursday. We lose our lead actress, the woman who was supposed to play Sarah, actually. Famous TV actress I cannot mention because of libel or some bullshit. She made us hire her friend, her boyfriend. I'm not sure.
Do we have time for this story? Alok, we were literally signing off, giving them.
I'm sorry. I was telling them.
Alok is again. We've just come from a soccer game.
I've been drinking.
Allegedly had some whatever fun there, and
I just thought it'd be a funny story.
No, it is. It is. There may be some editing necessary now.
All right, we'll end with a story real quick. So we basically lost all of our cast: our Sarah character, our Brian character, and our Miss Stanhope character. And what had happened was that,
but not your Janice.
But not Janice. Janice fucking is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so did Taylor Nichols. Taylor Nichols, are leader. The point though is that what had happened is this TV actress that dropped out. She made us hire her quote unquote like friend, boyfriend. We don't know what the fuck he was. He's on some fucking CW vampire show that we were like, well, if it's good enough for the, the shitty vampire show, it's good enough for the CW, it's good enough for us. These would be fine. But he dropped out. And then we went to like a bar to hang out to kind of regroup and see what's going on. And we got a call, and then the stand-up character, her husband had collapsed, rushed to the hospital. He was dead. And so she was out too. And so now we're like starting on a Thursday, and we're like, what the fuck are we going to do here now? And so we backed everything up to the next Monday, and we call Nicole Bryden-Bloom, who was really David Warmer's first choice, to give him credit. But we were like, this is on the TV actress. You put this in the black right away. So of course we went with her. Long story short, we got Nicole come out. She got 3 hours to rehearse with David Warmer. That was it. And then fast forward to Friday, we moved everything a week to Monday, to Monday. And on the Friday, sitting there, we still don't have Brian. We still don't have Miss Stanhope. I get a bunch of like reels from like friends, like, oh, here's an older actress you might like. So I watch Susan Davis, who was the mom in War Games. I watch her reel, and there's a number at the end of it. And I call the number thinking it's going to be basically, her agent or manager. And it's not. It's her. And I'm like, this is horribly inappropriate, but I'm going to pitch you the movie, and I'm going to pitch you us. And so we did. And she was like, yes, I've never done a cult movie before. This sounds fantastic. And 9:30 in the morning, signed her by 11:30. Fast forward to the end of the day. We're trying to sit there worried about the Brian character. We're trying to start on Monday again, like I said. And we finally get a call. We called our friends at Blumhouse and different places like this who were helping the CAAs and the WMEs of the world, William Morris, stay open. And finally get a call like 7:30 at night. And it's Gersh, and it's basically the guy, Giles Matty, who plays Brian. He says yes. And we're like, oh, okay, we got him. I think we're going to start this movie. Well, why didn't he call us till now? He was driving down from San Francisco, and he had to pull over to the side of the road and read the script on his phone. And he only read his part, and he just said yes. And I asked Naomi, I was like, is this what happens? And she was just like, yeah, we just read our part sometimes to make sure it's not a porn or a snuff film. So that's how it works. But he said yes, and we were like over the moon. Anyway, that's it.
Actors just want to work. That's why, when you ask questions like, oh, would you be willing? It's like, I'm starving over here. Yeah.
One of my favorite interviews that we've done was Charlie Clouser, who did the music for the Saw movies. And he said something. He said, hey, if I'm breathing, I'm doing these Saw movies.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us today.
Sorry, I hope that last story wasn't too much. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
You're good. Thank you for joining us. Keep an eye out for the sequel to 1BR coming soon. Our theme song is by Restless Spirit, so check them out. Our artwork is by Chris Fisher, so check him out. You can find us on all the socials at iHorror or at iHorror.com, which is the site we all call home. And thanks again for joining us, and we will see everybody again in 2 weeks. So for me, James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
And I'm Jonathan Correa.
Alok Mishra.
Naomi Grossman.
Keep your eye on horror.